Welcome, this is Draft Raw, and I am doing my 32 for 32 series. That is 32 NFL team drafts for 32 straight days. And I started with the NFC North, and in my first video, I did the Green Bay Packers. And in this one, we're going to do the Minnesota Vikings. So you know what? Let's just get right into it. With the very first pick, the Minnesota Vikings decided to choose Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU. When I look at my notes, this is what I had down for him. I thought he was a solid blocker. I thought he was a skip hop type of route runner. I'm gonna get to that what I meant when I said that later. I didn't think he was a true number one receiver. And he played in the slot a lot, which a lot of you Minnesota Vikings fans will already know. Like I said, when I didn't think he was a number one receiver, obviously he wasn't the best receiver on the team. It was Jamar Chase, but I felt as though sometimes Joe Burrow looked for some other options as well. And when I say he's a skip hop receiver, a lot of times when he's about to go into, I guess you say when he's about to start the play, when he's about to start the route, once the ball snaps, he kind of does the skip hop thing, and that takes time. That takes timing away. You know, receivers that like to do that skip hop, it takes a lot of timing away. When the ball snaps, go. You don't have to do the skip hop type deal, and it's a waste of time. And it can really hinder him in the NFL if he keeps doing it. I think that this is something that he can get over. That's teachable, so that's not like a huge deal, but it was something that I noticed when it came to him. And even when he ran his routes, I didn't think he was the most crisp route runner. I thought a lot of times he kind of rounded off just a little bit. There were some times when you saw he was cutting it pretty good and stuff like that, but there were other times where it wasn't as consistent. But he was a big play type of receiver at LSU, so that's something that's good for him. No, I did not think that Justin Jefferson was the best pick for the Minnesota Vikings at that particular time. I felt as though if you're losing a guy like Stephon Diggs, you want to get someone that, not to say replace Stephon Diggs entirely, like you have to get someone in the mold of Stephon Diggs, but I thought that there was another receiver that the Vikings could have chosen that could have complimented Adam Thielen a lot. And Adam is the type of guy that does play in a slot. And Justin Jefferson, his best position is probably in the slot. So I don't know how that's going to really work out as much. If Justin Jefferson can play on the outside, that's going to be really, really great. But the question is that can he play on the outside and do it consistently? And will he get over the small little things, the nuances that a receiver must have to become good in this league? So that's going to be the biggest thing for him. But a solid pick for the Minnesota Vikings. Next pick they chose in the first round, they chose Jeff Gladney, cornerback, TCU. If I look at my notes, that's why I keep looking down, I was looking at my notes. He's small, but he's competitive. He has very quick feet, and he has a good feel in zone. And the biggest thing that I really, really loved about him is that he followed the number one receiver all the time. He followed the number. It didn't matter who it was. It was Colin Johnson for Texas. When TCU played Texas, he followed Colin. Now, he didn't follow Duvernay. And people say, why didn't he follow Duvernay? Well, Jeff wanted to give himself a challenge. So he takes on the 6'6" receiver in Colin Johnson, and he does pretty well against him. In other games that I watched for TCU, he did the same thing. It didn't matter who was the receiver, but it was always either the big guy or the true number one receiver. Jeff Gladney always went against, and that's that competitiveness that I really, really like about him. And he may be the most underrated corner in this draft, and I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to become the best corner in this draft, but he's definitely going to be one of the top corners in the draft. He kind of reminds me a little bit of the other TCU corner that came out a couple of years ago named Jason Verrett. So he has that type of that small competitiveness with him. I think that he's a better prospect than Jason Verrett that came out. Which is the biggest reason why I think that he's going to be a better, one of the better corners in this draft period. But I can honestly say that this was an excellent pick by the Minnesota Vikings, and I give kudos to that to I think Rick Spellman and that GM staff and that whole coaching staff and everything that they did, and Mike Zimmer too, obviously. And then with the second round pick, they went and they chose Ezra Cleveland. Ezra Cleveland, offensive tackle from Boise State. Looking at my notes, he needs to be more aggressive. Drops his butt to anchor better. He needs to drop his butt to anchor better, and he needs to improve his foot speed. I think that the last two things that I said are kind of teachable. Being more aggressive is, you can say, it's kind of teachable in a way, but it's a situation where I just felt as though he was playing a little bit too finesse and not as aggressive as some of the top tackles, which obviously there's a reason why he wasn't one of the top tackles technically. You know, you look at guys like Josh Jones, maybe an Austin Jackson, and then, you know, the top four, Jedrick and Tristan and, you know, Mackay and, you know, Thomas. Those guys really set themselves apart. And Ezra was probably right there on that notch below, but it was a reason why he was on that notch below, and it was a reason why he was there in the second round. Honestly, I don't know exactly what position he's going to play, whether it be left tackle or right tackle. I'm not a Minnesota Vikings fan. I'm a draft guy, and I like to do drafts, so I'm not really sure exactly what the Vikings' plans are for him. But I think that he will definitely need at least 1 year before they can put him out there in the starting role. Now, with some of these other picks, I forgot what round they got drafted in, so I'm going to just name them in order, and I won't name them round. I'm going to just give y'all a caveat right there. Next pick was Cameron Dantzler, Mississippi State cornerback, press zone corner, and was a pretty good tackler. A lot of GMs, well, not GMs, but a lot of media scouts gave him a lot more bigger grades. They were really huge fans of a guy like of him. I have to say that it was kind of hard watching this tape because he wasn't getting thrown to a lot, so it was kind of hard to see, you know, what he would do in situations that if he got thrown to, he could knock down a pass or something. Like, how does he look when pressure is on him a little bit? That's a big thing. But I saw that he was a pretty good nice press zone corner. To me, would fit more of like the Seattle scheme, that cover 3, cover 1 type of scheme. And like I say, he's a pretty good tackler. He was the best corner and probably one of the best defensive players on that Mississippi State team. And I think that he was a nice pickup for them. That I don't know exactly how they're going to do, what they're going to do, but it could work. For knowing from Mike Zimmer being when he used to coach as the defensive coordinator for the Bengals, I know that they used to play a lot of cover too. So maybe, you know, when I talked about Gladney having good feeling zone and then Dantzler being a good zone type of corner, I don't know exactly what defense they do run in Minnesota, but if it is a Tampa 2 / a cover 2 type of scheme, this guy is actually a guy that could be pretty good in that type of scheme. Next, we're going to go to DJ Wonnum. I don't know how to say his last name, from South Carolina. When I saw the tape, he was an average athlete, couldn't bend, and he didn't really have no speed to power. This, to me, was probably a wasted pick. I didn't think that this pick was actually great, but maybe they have a plan for him not being an edge rusher, but actually being a linebacker. So maybe that's the situation when it comes to a guy like DJ. If that happens, maybe he could be a pretty solid player. Maybe that's what they saw. But if it doesn't, I'm not a huge fan of this pick at all. Next, they chose James Lynch from Baylor. Defensive end / defensive tackle. One of my favorite guys in this draft because he was aggressive. He had a very high motor, tons of potential, but he just needs discipline. A lot of times he kind of just goes, and sometimes that aggressiveness can work against him because then he finds himself ran out of plays. He finds himself on the ground maybe sometimes where if you keep on going, that high motor is good. That aggressiveness is good, but you got to hone it down. You got to tone it down a little bit. Be able to use those type of things to your advantage so you become a very solid player and even a better pass rusher than what he is. And as one of the bigger guys, he was like over 290 pounds. He had double-digit sacks, which is huge for a guy like him, especially in the system that they play. I don't know exactly what the Minnesota Vikings are going to do. To me, he's the guy that's going to play the defensive tackle, but I think that in his first year, you use him as a situational inside pass rusher, and that's what he's going to be. To me, that's what I think they're going to do with him, which will be a good thing for him and really help him with his development within the NFL. Next pick, they chose Troy Dye. Oregon linebacker. From what I saw on tape, he lacks awareness, can't take on blocks, is easily moved. He has good range and cover skills. Is like a nickel linebacker, very, very athletic. He's more of the, how can I say this? Baltimore chose Patrick Queen and Malik Harrison. He's the Patrick Queen between Patrick Queen and Malik. Malik is the thumper. Patrick is more of the cover guy, the more athletic, sideline type of cover guy. And that's what I see with Troy Dye. He's not the type of guy that's going to take on blocks. And I don't think that that's going to be his forte. He definitely needs a year, actually probably 2 years to get stronger, but to also get better at using his awareness. I mean, he needs to be out on the field to have awareness, but it's one of those things that could really hinder him. And hopefully this is not a busted pick, but it has the potential to be, because he's only good at being a cover corner. He reminds me a little bit of Kiko Alonso when it comes to that situation too. Kiko wasn't the greatest run defender, but he was a great cover guy, so there's some similarities there. Maybe, I don't know how this is going to work out, but maybe it will work out. But, it is what it is when it comes to him. Next, they chose Harrison Hand, another corner. So they chose 3 corners in this draft. Almost chose 4, but it's the way you have to look at some of the guys. Harrison Hand is quick-footed. He had average speed, very aggressive. And the reason I say he's a smart zone cornerback. So the average speed makes sense. And he plays the ball in the air. I think that I didn't watch his tape before the draft. I ended up watching his tape a little bit later. And just seeing it, I was surprised. I wasn't surprised because he's a Temple cornerback, but I was surprised in the way that how good he was for how not highly ranked he was. I thought that he's a better player than what the ranking would say. And y'all may have gotten yourselves a steal here with Harrison Hand. Like I say, smart, aggressive zone corner. And for the lack of ball skills from a lot of these corners that were in this draft, there were only, honestly, Meek Robertson from Louisiana Tech and now Harrison Hand, the only guys that I feel as though were actually, not to say ball hawks in particular, but were play-the-ball type of corners where they don't panic and they look back and they track it and usually they come down with it. So that's what I liked about Harrison Hand a lot. KJ Osborne, next pick, was wide receiver from Miami. Looking at my notes, he's a good run blocker. He's more of a gadget type of receiver. There's nothing, great exactly about him. I didn't think he was the greatest route runner. I think that his speed is kind of weird because I would look at him and how to use him, and you think that he's like this super fast guy, and his speed was not as fast as you want him to be. I even think a guy like Justin Jefferson is faster than him. He's definitely faster than Adam Thielen, but in all, when I look at KJ Osborne, I don't see the guy particularly making the big impact as a receiver, but I think his impact can be as that gadget, as that return guy, or just that guy you put on reverses, or the quick little crossing route, or just run straight and Kirk Cousins, we'll see if he chucks it up to you. So that's what I think that that's the type of player I think he is. He reminded me a little bit of Torrey Smith because Torrey was a great run blocking wide receiver, but he wasn't a gadget. But this guy is a strictly gadget type of guy. Then the next pick, y'all chose Blake Brandel from Oregon State, offensive tackle / guard. If they want to switch him to guard, I felt as though he could possibly still play tackle, maybe a little bit. Especially because when I read down his thing of my notes, he's a solid technician. I only had one tape to see of him, and he didn't really get beat. So that was pretty good. Blocks too high. Sometimes he's a little bit too high when he's blocked. He doesn't bend his knees and drop his butt and his hips. So, when you block too high, you're taking away leverage. But when you drop, you got that leverage. And now you can really put that block on that person and really, stunt them right there. And it's going to be hard for them to move. But the biggest thing, he does need to add muscle. I felt as though, when it came to guys that were big-time power rushers, he could lose ground a little bit. And that's why I said maybe he should stay at tackle and not switch to guard, because he needs to add that muscle to switch to guard. But I thought that he was a pretty solid technician. Josh Metellus, Michigan safety, was the next pick. He's a fast and physical, and he's a good open field tackler. I didn't see much from him when it came to coverage, but I did definitely felt as though he was fast and, like I said, fast and physical. And his best attribute was his tackling skills. Strong safety type of guy that could make the switch to playing a little bit of free safety. He has that versatility to do that. But he will never be like one of those great safeties in the league where it's just like, you know, his cover skills is unbelievable and he can get interceptions and anything. He's just going to be a really, really solid player for if a team wants to start him. Kenny Willekes was the next pick. One of my favorite guys in the draft. Defensive end from Michigan State. He had good speed, initial punch, and inside move. But the problem is that it was only bull rush and speed rush. So it was only like a swim, a rip, and a bull. There was nothing really. There wasn't a lot like true hand fighting. He was just kind of. He used his quickness to be able to get around, which was still good for him. But it was one of those things where it was literally he converts speed to power pretty well, but it was just that was all it was. As a run defender, he was okay in run, is defending the run, but he's one of those guys that, you know, he could become as one of your late round picks, become one of the better players on your team. Definitely would be better than DJ Wonnum, depending on what position y'all play DJ at. But this is a solid pass rusher that, you know, honestly, could make a difference for your team this year and not have to wait a year. He could actually make a difference, but he's one of those guys that we'll see what happens when he gets on the field. All right, within the last 3 picks, y'all picked up Iowa quarterback Nate Stanley. I just felt though he's a backup, so, you know, I don't want to get into more of that. Y'all last pick, y'all picked up Kyle Hinton from Washburn. I couldn't watch any tape of him, so, you know, that is what it is. But the pick before that was another Mississippi State corner/safety/linebacker. Hybrid safety linebacker. But I felt as though he was a special teamer, and that was Brian Cole, the second from Mississippi State. They listed him as corner, I think. For some reason, I saw a corner, and then when I watched the tape, he looked like a safety/line. He was a big corner, so... And then the way he played, it was kind of in a nickel role, but it was still like more safety-ish than anything because it was a bunch of off coverage. And him coming to the line of scrimmage a couple of times too looked like a linebacker. So, you know, when I looked at his tape, it was nothing really special. He has attributes. He has the intangibles. Well, not intangibles, sorry. He has, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Like, it's just, he has the height, weight, speed types deal. He has all of that, all the things that you're looking for in a player for that position. The problem is that that's all he is, and there's a chance that he may just strictly be a special teamer, which, when you're looking at a late round pick, that's what usually they're going to be, is a special teamer. But, you know, looking at what he is, it's like Danielle Hunter, you know, 35-inch arms, 6'4", 260 pounds, you know, 10-inch hands or whatever it is. It's like him, but it's in the safety position with all of that height, weight, and speed, and you just have to mold it into being something. And maybe he could turn out to be something because he was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. So we'll see what happens with him, but I don't know. Anyway, that was the last person I wanted to talk about when it came to the Minnesota Vikings draft. I thank anybody for watching. Like I said, this is the 32 for 32 series. First, I'm starting with the NFC North, did the Packers, doing the Minnesota Vikings, and tomorrow we're going to get into the Detroit Lions. So, if you like this video, please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you want to see more of me. Please comment on this video if you want to say something about certain guys. You know, maybe I didn't have all the information that you wanted to hear, and there was something that you thought that, you know, you thought about a player that I didn't say. You could please put that in the comments so we can conversate. Once again, this is your boy, Draft Raw. I thank you for watching. Draft Raw out.